When Gerrit Smith, he was lobbying that there should be no distinction between the voting rights of white men and the voting rights of black men. At that time, only men voted, but there were different standards. And the standard for a black male to vote was that you had to own 100 acres of land. They had to be worth so much, or you couldn't vote. As soon as that, and Gerrit was lobbying that the difference between white men and black men spoke to inequality and prejudice and was unconstitutional, but he didn't win. So when they lost that fight, he said, okay. He immediately set aside 100,000 acres of land in the north of the state, up around Lake Placid, and started giving away 100-acre parcels to black families if they would move up there and farm the land so that they could vote. John Brown moved up there because he had farming experience, and he said, I'll show these people who may be unfamiliar with farming techniques how to farm. That's how John Brown got a home in North Elba, New York. So every year they have John Brown Days on his birthday. This past year was the first year I've been able to attend, and it was very moving. I would like to go back next year and sing this song.
I want to say something about this song that you're going to sing. First of all, I found it doing research in the Library of Congress as a recording, meaning there was no notation about it. It was just on a reel-to-reel tape that they have stored. I just caught the title, Agonizing Cruel Slavery Days, and I thought, okay, this is what I'm in the general area of what I'm looking for. Let's give it a listen. So I listened to it, and it was very poor recording, made obviously in 33, 34, somewhere in that period when they were doing the Federal Writers Project and taking the last living slaves and getting their stories and songs and whatever recorded. But it intrigued me, and I thought it was important, so I made a note of it. And then in going further with the research, I went through those collected slave narratives, and I found it again with the full text, not just the part that the man had sung back in 33, but the full text which he read into the record. So I knew it was accurate. It was the complete song. And this man was named Elijah Cox, Uncle Cox he was known as, and he was a freeborn man from Michigan in 1843, and consequently was not a slave. I'm reading from the record here. Association with the ex-slaves, however, after he came to Fort Concho, that's in Texas, in 1871, furnished him with a broad knowledge of slavery days, and he wished to contribute the following song, which he learned at Fort Concho, having heard the ex-slaves sing it many times, as it was one of their favorite songs. Would you do a rendition of that for us?
I will do my best.
Okay.
I am thinking today about times past away, when they tied me up in bondage long ago. In old Virginia state is where we separate, and it fills my heart with misery and woe. They took away my boy, Lord, he was his mother's joy. A baby from the cradle him we raised. Then they put us far apart, and it broke the old man's heart in those agonizing, cruel slavery days. Though they'll never come again, let us give our praise to him who looks down where the little children play.
in those agonizing, cruel slavery days. At night when all is dark, we hear that watchdog bark, and we listen to the murmurs on the wind. It seemed to say to me, you people, you must be free, for the happy times are coming, Lord, we pray. My memory will still on that dear old cabin floor, and in the shadows I'll find those passed away. And for them we'll weep and moan, for our souls were not our own in those agonizing, cruel slavery days. I'm very old and feeble now, and my hair is turning gray. I have traveled all the roughest kind of roads, through all the toils and sorrows. I have reached the end at last. Now I'm resting by the wayside with my load. Forget now and forgive has always been my guide, for that's what the golden scripture says. But my memory will turn round back to when I was tied down in those agonizing, cruel slavery days. Though they'll never come again, let us give our praise to Him who looks down where His little children play. Every night and every morn, I'll pray for them that's gone in those cruel, agonizing slavery days.
It was war, burning the city. And what is the price of death in Kabul? Is it the same as Jannah, Bosnia, Lebanon, Somalia, the World Trade Center? There are souls buried in every bit of rubble, the grief of strangers. Like a clock behind the bar, frozen at 9:59 a.m., a woman's shoe store. The windows gone, the shoes neatly stacked in their places. Sirens, as voices of the dead, the burning. Cadaver dogs, eyes rolling from the smell of nothing left to bury. A hand here, what used to be the shape of a face. Grit, bones smashed against concrete, Hood of a car, heel of a fireman's boot. 15,000 pieces of bodies. This is the same as a busload of pilgrims slaughtered on a mountain road. A child gone hungry in an African wasteland, hundreds buried in a Bosnian ditch. The flesh drying at Antioch. Firestorms over Byzantium, the blinding light of Nagasaki, more slain in the name of holy war. Devils, in the shape of women turned on the morning fire. The Third Order of Rome, Inquisition, Godhead, nail and rack. Legacy of holy men preaching faith by fire. Priests who denounce homosexuality yet practice perversion after Vespers. Politicians who cloak misinformation in euphemisms born of an Orwellian vision. The Iowa farmer who cannot see the signs in wheat dust. Twisted torsos of flesh, limbs gone from a landmine, truck bomb, the last thing to see, a glimpse of the best we have made of this world. Snapshots of what lies beneath every ground zero. Fumes, a steel beam that rises like a grave marker. Blizzard of paper, swirl of time standing still. All these places, the faces are the same. Graves piled over the centuries, in the name of whose God shall we commit the next murder? What mother, child, father shall not go home tonight? Where will we bury the dead? The ground is already saturated. We pile death on top of itself year after bloody year. Desolate cities are inhabited by ghosts who believe the murder of one human heart does not add to the murder of us all. Yet, for every murder, God has created a witness. For every hand raised in war, there is the grieved in spirit, foundation laid with sapphires, a night that falls different and distant, close as our next breath. Will we say God has abandoned us when the sun goes supernova? Will we slaughter the stars in the name of our glory, rendering to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, calling God out of his name, while we enlarge the place of our tent by war, attrition steeped in an age-old legacy? If God be for us, who can be against us? Except the us we find in the mirror. Our killing heart, blood trail, a sky of ash, and all the way down, people falling from the clouds.
In the hallways of middle school, I stand guard, watching students pass. Are they aware of the day's news? I try not to underestimate the students' desire to understand, catch snippets of innocent conversations that have not changed through the decades. Some well-informed colleagues share stories, get their news from social media, while others, buried in work, deign not to know. Sometimes I skip the daily headlines of shootings, climate disasters, civil unrest, political chaos, to write a poem, searching for hope in an unsteady world, to tell, share, convey stories, our news.
Disaster, dispersed, dismemberment, displaced but never discarded, passing all streets, destroyed houses. I look for faces from long ago. Where has everyone gone? Another day lapses, and another. Ghosts dwell in the destroyed villages of 48. Exiled all my life, I will return one day to the garden of my house to see the dome of the rock from my rooftop, talk to my neighbor, visit the Indian hospice, my family's compound, relive memories of the napalm bombs that blanketed the place and burned and killed my family. I remember water lilies, the fig and lemon tree. I once knocked on a door in Al Qatamon. A lady answered and shouted, "What do you want?" I replied, "To see my father's house." She slammed the door in my face. "It must be another country you're looking for." I begged her to let me in, screaming, "This is my father's house. I'm holding the deed to it." I passed by the ruins of Hebron's gate, where my father's shop once was, and where the wall of Jerusalem once stood, has now become no man's land. Why should ghettos and death camps be repeated in Gaza and Jenin, in Deir Yassin and the Al-Qassam villages of 47? Why the Haganah's ethnic cleansing on the northern coast of Palestine, expulsions, attacks on local villages? One day we Palestinians will return to Al-Barwa, Qatamon, Deir Yassin, and the Qisasa villages of 48. Rachel Corey will be reborn. My voice will keep circling the skies, so the conscience of the world will hear. Darwish and Kanafani will resurrect. The children will not have to starve in Gaza. No more ethnic cleansing, no more Balfour declarations, no more empty UN resolutions, no more mass killings of a civilian population, simply no more. I'm asking for justice. I'm asking for dignity. I'm asking for my home back. Remember us. Keep praying for us.
So when I hit Oakland, I knew I wanted to look like a Panther. I hadn't gone through orientation yet, but I needed to get the look of a Panther. And at that time, sisters were straightening their hair. My hair was all straightened and dyed either silver or red or something. And so I needed to get what was then called a freedom cut, my natural hair. So I couldn't just get it done into a natural. I really had to get all of the perm and everything out of my hair. And this is how it went. This poem is called Hair. Fingers like typewriter keys, tap Tide detergent through my hair. Running water hot, cold, Sheets of water pinch my eyes shut as shields from suds. I relax, remembering washboard fingers in Grandmom's cellar, where Uncle Eddie scrubbed me and my sister's scalps hard. We playfully screamed his teasing and twisting and turning our heads, dripping wet and toweled. Now, back in California with patches of Tide and vinegar dripping in the tub, I'm remembering Uncle Eddie, who called me a militant midget, and here I am in California after jumping a late plane from Philadelphia. I'm getting ready for pantherhood, feline pantherhood, fingering my hair, rinsing and re-rinsing my hair, forking out a hairy birth, the blush of a new bush. When I did go through orientation and I became a member of the East Oakland branch of the Black Panther Party, one of the most fantastically wonderful things that we did was get food and feed the children, the hungry children, and sometimes their parents, for free in Oakland, California. This poem is called Routine. All over again, a blackberry morning, a licorice longing to lick an old lover. All over again, a blackberry morning, bullets rest in chambers, unlit lace combat boots relaxed by beds, mattresses, walls. I wait for water. In a glass shower, clarity splashes. Old Levi's and my big black bush. In a misty mirror, I unplait my freedom. Hair signaling morning stars, forking and pulling up an ancient past. Panthers in the bedroom, living room, bathroom, growl, laugh, scowl, count weapons and cleanse bodies. On this berry black morning, we prepare for the knock of panthers standing around the swimming pool, standing like pieces in a game of chess. I move to secure my place. We walk, unsmiling sisters and brothers, bursting through doors of damaged glass. In a panther van we ride, whispering a pattern of plans. While outside, the stars surrender, while inside, we rocket ship through space, while outside a kaleidoscopic sky. Midnight morning flaking into daylight.
Put your red dress on, take out your drum. All our hearts will beat as one. The silent tales will be sung. We will not turn back time. Put your red dress on. Put your brown dress on. Roll up your sleeves. In distant fields and factories, high in steel towers, down on your knees, to feed the ones you love. Put your brown dress on. Put your blue dress on. Heave a sigh to the ocean's constant fury. As we give life, see it take flight in a never-ending way. Put your blue dress on. Put your green dress on. Run among the trees. Sweet fragrance of the air we breathe. And if they fall, we'll hear them wail. Our roots are all entwined. Put your green dress on. Put your black dress on. Walk behind the hearse to mark the day that became a curse. The faceless ones with us remain from a different time. They call our name. Put your black dress on. Put your white dress on. Embrace the sky among fireflies on a moonlit night, soft shimmering beneath the stars. We've come this far. Put your white dress on. Put your red dress on. Take out your drum. All our hearts beat as one. The silent tales will be sung. We will not turn back time. Put your red dress on. Put your red dress on.
Part 1. The absence of joy, void of contentment, when feelings only feel lost and ideas are absorbed in delusions. It speaks in monosyllables, if at all, in a tone of E flat, neither screeching or beseeching, bleaching anguish from the wound discovered from the inside out. Inside out? Outside bombarded by racist radiation, enveloping one's being in a bubble of white ambivalence, pushing the envelope to a point of irrelevance when what matters does not matter. Black lives matter. Our collective humanity matters. Solitary confinement and antiseptic whitewash reality caused by the imposition of nullification as people of color are relegated to a prison nation. Denied purpose, denied reason, denied hope, denied justice. The hypocrisy of democracy will not be denied. We proclaim no justice, no peace. That's no lie. Part 2. Living black in a white world but taught to not be racist. Contradictions of a paradox wrapped in an enigma. The mystery lost in history, not taught by the first, is now last. Not racist but pro-black. Not anti-Israel but pro-Palestinian liberation. They too are Semitic. Building a future for the poor when the rich wants more, like the poor loving freedom, like the rich love their billions. Reconciliation through revolution. Part 3. Anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-exploitation, anti-racism, anti-hegemony, anti-class divisions, anti-colonialism, anti-oppression, anti-repression, anti-sexism, anti-chauvinism, anti-plutocracy. These are the progenitors of pain, now labeled as anti-American. No, I'm anti-pain.
Each Viernes Santo we would travel, somberly dressed, to view the Stations of the Cross, La Via Dolorosa. No radio music to be played all day, and fish yet one more time. My mother's escabeche, carefully prepared at start of Lent and soaked in vinegar and brine for 40 days. Quaresma fish. And all the current lies told by Padre Ramon, who heard confessions in a chair and told the young muchachas in his lap to go and sin no more, and pray Tres Padres Nuestros while he fondled their young buttocks with one hand and signed the cross with the other. Domingo de Pascuas, the gringos wore their hats and fancy new zapatos to their mass. We trooped in veils, no Easter bunny and no eggs, just confesión y comunión. Mi papi touched me, padre. Hija, it's your fault. Pray for the pardon of your sinful soul. And Dios in heaven and the good señoras in their bosoms full of blessings, talking about Ignacio who was sleeping with his secretaria. The blessings of the Pascua Florida. The Via Dolorosa of niñas taught to hold hymens for pesos, to use the lure of sex to trap a good marido who could pay for camarones al ajillo or langosta or filet mignon en los domingos. Via Dolorosa. What would the man crucified long ago have thought of his new churches and their flowers and their songs?
Your country, 'tis of thee I sing, land of pilgrim proud mythology, Ellis Island fairy tale of welcome mat for all. Overturn the stone or three on which your palace has been built, and I'll show you ancestral skulls cracked and broken, if not ground while still alive, into a dust so fine that no forensic anthropologist can name your victims now. My grandmother was born millennia before your human seed arrived, thrived in harmony with the forests, meadows, hillsides, until one day soldiers set her teepee blazing. Grandfather did not enter through a golden door, was flushed instead from the putrid bowels of a ship, one link in the slave chain which still binds your world together, although you find this hard to comprehend. My mother, lured from Asia with the promise of employment, was undressed when she arrived, locked up in a room kept for your enjoyment, until, bored one day, you sliced what was left into tiny pieces, tossed them away, imported my sister. It was darkness, not your lady's lamp, that guided my father from lands where human beings deemed to be of the wrong kind are born, so he might cower for more than one lifetime in your fields and orchards. My aunts and uncles appealed to you, but were sent back to the death camp, and When a few returned after the war, emaciated, bleeding now, you dispatched them again to make your conflict with the Arabs their conflict with the Arabs, proving thus that the Hebrew race could learn the art of killing well enough to be accepted into your polite society. My cousins, nieces, nephews, children, still enter by stealth or not, work wherever you choose to avert your eyes, sewing clothes for you, harvesting and preparing food for you, making sure you do not choke on your own excrement. And so, from sea to shining sea, people deemed to be of the right kind can spend time humming favorite tunes of liberty and justice for the favored few. One nation, under whatever God might be deranged enough to bless this America. Meanwhile, I will wait until one day the angry eyes emerge from every fruited plain and mountainside, compelling you to look for once, I mean really, really look for once at your nation's contributions to the world. And if you are in luck on this particular day, they will be extracting merely dreadful retributions. No, do not glance over your shoulder. Watch the face in the mirror, because 'tis of thee I say.
Songs of Slavery and Emancipation is a project that is comprised of, first and foremost, songs composed by slaves in the period going all the way back to the American Revolution and up through the Civil War. And the collection was based on the discovery of a song in a pamphlet published in 1939 called Negro Slave Revolts in the United States, 1526 to 1860, in which I found a song that was explicitly revolutionary and differed in content from any I'd ever heard associated with Negro spirituals or other African American forms. And this led to the pursuit of other songs like it. And the basis of that was the fact that the slaves rebelled. These songs were the expression of that historical fact, and they were accompanied by a second group, which is the abolitionist songs, which themselves were a product of not only lamenting, or let's say the moral outrage at the condition of slavery, but were actually sympathetic to and in solidarity with the struggle of the slaves to emancipate themselves. And so on the one hand, you had songs that were composed by slaves, and on the other hand, you had songs composed by abolitionists who were in some cases free people of color or fugitive slaves themselves, as well as their white counterparts. And these songs were actually in some ways easier to find, in the sense that collections were published and printed and distributed widely in the run-up to the Civil War, but have largely been forgotten or written out of the American canon of popular music, when in fact, in some cases, they were extremely popular songs and have remained in obscurity, obviously, in my view, due to the fact that they
represent a movement, a popular movement that was very widespread and very powerful, which ultimately ended in the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. The Song of the Alien American by Joshua McCarter Simpson is an example of one of these abolitionist songs.
My country is a big dark land of slavery. In thee we roam. Long have our chains been worn. Long has our grief been borne. Our flesh has long been torn.